Sweden clears final hurdle to join NATO. U.S. eyes Gaza ceasefire by next week. And Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Otto Othman and you're watching World Today. Now, Sweden is set to leave its 200 years of neutrality and non-alignment behind after its NATO membership was ratified by the Hungarian parliament yesterday. Hungary was the final obstacle for an enlargement of the military alliance spurred by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The vote ends more than a year of delays that left fellow NATO partners furious as Ukraine battled Russian troops. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson hailed a historic day, while NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said Sweden will make the alliance stronger and safer.
Medlemskapet i NATO betyder att vi nu kommer hem till ett stort antal demokratiers samarbete för fred och frihet. Ett mycket framgångsrikt samarbete. Hem till våra grannars samarbete för säkerhet. Hem till den krets av länder där vi i praktiken under mycket lång tid har hört hemma.
Russia's February 2022 invasion prompted Sweden and neighboring Finland to apply to join the bloc, ending a long-standing stance of non-alignment in both countries. A new ceasefire between Israel and Hamas could start as soon as next Monday. U.S. President Joe Biden said in a deal that could include the exchange of dozens of hostages held in Gaza for several hundred Palestinian detainees. In a protracted bid to bring about a truce, Egypt, Qatar, the United States, France, and others have acted as go-betweens for Israel and Hamas, with negotiations ongoing. They are seeking a 6-week halt to the fighting and the release of Israeli hostages held in Gaza since 7th October. An unnamed Israeli official told news site Ynet the direction is positive. A Hamas source, meanwhile, told AFP that some new amendments were proposed on contentious issues, but Israel did not present any substantive position on the terms of the ceasefire and the withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. With Israel ground troops operating in every other major urban area of the Gaza Strip nearly 5 months into the war, an estimated 1.4 million Palestinian civilians have sought shelter in Rafah. The United Nations has repeatedly warned against any ground assault of Rafah, and on Monday, Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that an assault would put the final nail in the coffin of an aid operations. Food and medical supplies have been parachuted into Gaza yesterday by the Jordanian army, the biggest airdrop operation so far to deliver much-needed aid to millions of Gazans mostly living in camps. The operation deployed 4 C-130 planes, including one belonging to the French Air Force. Some of the aid, which includes medical supplies and ready-made meals of high nutritional value, fell into the sea close to the shore and had to be retrieved with small boats. The 2.3 million Gazans, most of them displaced from homes destroyed by months of Israeli airstrikes, are facing crisis levels of hunger. Jordan's King Abdullah warned on Monday of the dangers of a military operation planned by Israel in Rafah and reiterated his appeal for an immediate ceasefire to help protect civilians in Gaza and bring in much-needed aid. Meanwhile, drone footage in Gaza's Deir al-Balah showed crowds of people gathering by the seashore, waiting for aid to be airdropped over the strip. Some were also seen rowing boats in the sea, collecting what is believed to be airdropped over the water. Aid was dropped to 11 sites along the Gaza coast from its northern edge to the south for civilians to collect. Previous airdrops that parachuted in medicines and humanitarian provisions were sent to hospitals the Jordanian army runs in Gaza. French President Emmanuel Macron announced new steps to boost Ukraine in its fight against the Russian invasion, saying not to even the sending of Western ground troops was ruled out to achieve Europe's goal of defeating Moscow. Speaking after hosting a meeting of 24 European leaders to discuss Ukraine, Macron painted a grim picture of a Russian whose positions he had were hardening both at home and on the battlefield.
Nous avons entendu ensuite la demande du président Zelensky, au début de notre réunion, d'amplifier notre soutien. Et nous avons la conviction en effet que la défaite de la Russie est indispensable à la sécurité et la stabilité en Europe.
Russia, he said, was showing a more aggressive attitude not just in Ukraine but in general. Macron said a new coalition would be set up to supply Ukraine with missiles and bombs of medium and long range to carry out deep strikes. Meanwhile, as an effort to warm strained relation with Morocco, France's Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné reiterated France's support of Morocco's autonomy plan for disputed Western Sahara. The former Spanish colony is largely controlled by Morocco, but claimed by the Algeria-backed Polisario Front, which in 2020 declared a self-defense war and seeks the territory's independence. The United Nations considers Western Sahara a non-self-governing territory. Séjourné said Morocco can count on France's clear and constant support for its autonomy plan. Rabat advocates limited autonomy for the vast desert territory, which is home to abundant phosphates and fisheries. The foreign minister's visit comes after a series of diplomatic tensions between Rabat and Paris, the former colonial power which is home to a large diaspora. Moroccans have been particularly upset by President Emmanuel Macron's desired rapprochement with Algeria. Séjourné proposed on Monday a partnership with Morocco focused over the next 30 years on renewable energies, training and industrial development. Hungary's parliament on Monday elected a political novice as president following the resignation of his predecessor, who caused outrage by pardoning a man convicted in a child abuse case. The affair has turned into the biggest political crisis that nationalist Prime Minister Viktor Orban has faced since his return to power in 2010. Orban Ali Katalin Novak resigned as president earlier this month after it was revealed she had pardoned a convicted child abuser's accomplice. Last week, ruling party Fidesz's nominated Constitutional Court head Tamás Sulyok, 67, to replace Novak, Hungary's first woman president. On Monday, Parliament approved his appointment, after which he took the oath of office. He will become president on 5th March. Little known to the broader public, Solyak became a Constitutional Court judge in 2014 and 2 years later, the court's head. The opposition has criticized the nomination of politically inexperienced Solyak. While the presidential post is largely ceremonial, around 3,000 people attended on Sunday protests by 4 opposition parties calling for direct presidential elections. Peru declares health emergency as dengue cases soar. Peru declared a health emergency across most of the country as a heat wave and heavy rains have led to a spike in dengue fever cases. According to its health ministry, the nation's death toll due to the virus has risen to 32 so far this year. Total cases also climbed to 31,300 in the first 8 weeks of the year, up from 24,981 in the first 7 weeks. The Peruvian government's cabinet approved the motion to declare a health emergency on Monday, hours after the ministry said a dengue outbreak was imminent. Most of the cases seen so far in Peru have been the country's north, where hospitals are already overwhelmed.
situación está complicada aquí en la provincia de Calma, bueno, y alrededores, ya se podría decir Calma como provincia y los distritos, tanto Comandante Noel como Buenavista, donde ya aparecieron ya casos de dengue, e incluso en el distrito de Yaután también, ¿no? Tenemos el mismo problema. Y desgraciadamente, no desgraciadamente, sino que ya no hay hospitales y todos se vienen a atender aquí a la ciudad de Calma, el cual ya está colapsando, ¿no? Las camillas.
Since 2023, the Andean nation has faced high temperatures and heavy rains due to the El Niño weather phenomenon, which has warmed the seas off Peru's coastline. Two youths were shot dead as Guinea's capital was paralyzed on the first day of an open-ended general strike, a key test for the junta that seized power in 2021. A confederation of the main unions has urged public and private sectors to strike for the release of a prominent media activist, lower food prices, and an end to media censorship. Schools, shops, markets, and roads were empty in Konkarki, and hospitals only offered skeletal services as youths set up barricades on arterial thoroughfares. Sporadic clashes broke out in some outskirts, and two young men were shot dead. The strike comes a week after the military junta unexpectedly dissolved the transnational government, which had been in office since July 2022, without providing a reason. The junta also ordered government members' passports to be seized and their bank accounts frozen. Police kept a low-profile presence in the seaside capital on Monday. Protests have become rare under junta leader General Mamadi Doumbouya, who took power in a September 2001 coup. The military leaders banned all demonstrations in 2022 and have arrested a number of opposition leaders, civil society members, and the press. Burundi yesterday accused the country's main rebel group of attacking a bereaved family and killing 9 people, including a soldier, while the Red Tabara insurgents said they had killed 6 troops. The attack late on Sunday in the western region of Buringa, just north of the economic capital Bujumbura, borders the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the Red Tabara group has rare bases. A statement from the presidency said 9 people, including 6 women and a soldier, were killed in the cowardly attack, and 5 people were wounded. The presidency said the rebels also ransacked an office of the ruling CNDD-FDD party and accused Rwanda of backing the rebels. The group is the most active of all the rebel outfits in Burundi and is estimated to have between 500 and 800 fighters. Red Tabara is accused of waging deadly violence in the East African country since 2015, but had not been active there since September 2021, where it carried out several attacks, including on the airport in the main city of Bujumbura. Burundi has closed its borders with Rwanda, and President Evariste Ndayishimiye has accused Rwanda of backing the rebels, a claim denied by Kigali. Farmers faced off with riot police in European streets, paralyzed by tractors, as EU ministers huddled to try to streamline rules and the red tape that are fueling protests across the bloc. An estimated 900 tractors brought the city's European quarter to a halt for the second time in the month, with farmers hurling eggs, burning tires, and setting off fireworks, while officers fired water cannon and tear gas to press them back. While the day saw no serious clashes, it represented a new show of force in the Europe-wide farmers' movement, spurred by what are seen as excessive EU environmental requirements and unfairly cheap imports. Agriculture ministers from the 27-nation bloc were in Brussels to examine proposals for simplifying the EU's much-maligned Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP, in a new attempt to try to assuage farmers. But for the protesters in Brussels, who came from Spain, Portugal, and Italy, as well as Belgium, none of it felt like enough. The rolling farmer protests, which saw French President Emmanuel Macron angrily heckled over the weekend, have unnerved EU leaders, concerned they could prove a boon for the far right at European elections in June. Brussels has given ground with a string of concessions in recent weeks. These include an extended suspension of rules on leaving land fallow and safeguards to stop Ukrainian imports flooding the market under a tariff-free scheme introduced after Russia's 2022 invasion. Renault unveiled a new electric vehicle, and its Scenic model won the Car of the Year award at the first Geneva Auto Show since 2019, giving a boost to the French automaker's electrification plans. Now, Renault is the only European automaker with a presence at this year's industry gala, as giants of Volkswagen and Stellantis, whose brands include Peugeot and Fiat, decided to skip the event. Renault Scenic, an electric SUV popular with families, won the coveted Car of the Year prize, the French group's first since 2006. It narrowly beat the BMW 5 Series sedan for the title, which was awarded by a jury of 58 European journalists who cover the auto sector. The ceremony was held in the Geneva International Motor Show, which returned after a nearly 5-year hiatus linked to the COVID pandemic. Renault launched an electric version of the Scenic model in late 2023, and the first deliveries are due in coming months. The company, which aims to be a fully electric brand in Europe by 2030, also unveiled a lithium-ion battery version of its popular R5 hatchback model that was produced from the 1970s to the 1990s. Renault hopes history will repeat itself and the new R5 will find the same success as the automotive industry shifts from internal combustion engines to electric motors, and give it another boost after it bounced back into profit in 2023 thanks to sales of top-of-the-line vehicles and prices increases. Smartphone makers are packing their latest devices with the flashy new artificial intelligence tools such as real-time voice translation and advanced photo editing in efforts to reignite consumer demand. Now, the focus on AI comes and sluggish smartphone sales as consumers are taking longer to upgrade their devices due to a lack of significant innovations, high inflation, and economic uncertainties. The trend was on display at the telecom industry's biggest annual show, the 4-day Mobile World Congress MWC in Barcelona. South Korean giant Samsung's stand at the MWC prominently plugged its new premium AI-powered Galaxy S24 range, which allowed users to make or receive a call in a language they don't speak, and then receive a live translation of the call both audibly and on the screen. China's Honor launched its new AI-infused flagship Magic 6 Pro smartphone in Barcelona, which features a camera with motion sensing capabilities that can detect and automatically photograph fast actions such as sports at the best moment. Global smartphone shipments declined 3.2% to 1.17 billion units in 2023, its second consecutive yearly decline, according to the IDC consultancy, which predicts a marginal rebound this year. It predicts 170 million next-generation AI smartphones will be shipped in 2024, almost 15% of total smartphone shipments, up from roughly 51 million shipped in 2023. Engineers on Earth expect to lose radio contact with the private U.S. moonlander Odysseus today, effectively cutting short the mission 5 days after its sideways touchdown, the company behind the spacecraft Intuitive Machines. NASA, which has several research instruments aboard the 6-legged vehicle, had said those payloads were designed to operate for 7 days on solar energy before the sun was due to set over the landing site near the moon's south pole. Company executives had told reporters on Friday that the day after Odysseus landed, that its payloads would be able to function for about 9 or 10 days under a best-case scenario. However, the company also had acknowledged then that the spacecraft had caught the bottom of one of its legs on the uneven lunar surface on its final descent and tipped over, coming to rest horizontally, apparently propped up on a rock at one end. As a consequence, exposure of the vehicle's solar panels to available sunlight necessary for recharging its batteries was left substantially limited, and two of the spacecraft's antennae were left pointed toward the ground, impeding communications with the lander. Coming up in sports, Nur Izzah rides to second gold at Asian Track Cycling Championships. The country's latest cycling sensation, Nur Izzah Izzati Muhammad Asri, won the women's 500 meters time trial for her second gold at the Asian Track Cycling Championships ACC 2024 in New Delhi. The 19-year-old rider clocked 34.388 seconds in the final held at the Indira Gandhi Velodrome. South Korea's Hwang Hyun-seo was second in 34.802 seconds, and Luo Shuyan of China took bronze in 34.958 seconds. The win is also a redemption of sports for the Kedah-born cyclist, as she only won silver in the event last year. On Sunday, Nur Izzah ended the country's 12-year wait for gold in Kirin at ACC when she won gold in the event. The goal scored by Harimau Melaya striker Muhammad Faisal Abdul Halim was voted as the best goal of the 2023 Asian Cup hosted by Qatar from 12th January to 10th February. Now, the selection of the goal was announced by the Asian Football Confederation, AFC, through its social media platform after voting was completed on Sunday on the official website of the Confederation. Muhammad Faisal, 26, scored the prized goal in the 3-3 draw against South Korea in a group match on 25th January. The AFC had last Wednesday announced that 8 of the 132 goals scored in the tournament were shortlisted for polling online. Among the goals in the list that Faisal, the Selangor striker, had to overcome were the goals scored by Japan's Keito Nakamura in the match against Vietnam, Saudi Arabia's Abdul Rahman Gharib's goal against Oman, Qatar's Hassan Al-Haidos' goal against China, and the goal from Thailand's Supachok Sarachat against Uzbekistan. Just before the voting came to a close, the Pulau Pinang-born Faisal had garnered 85% of the total votes. Al Hilal defeated Steven Gerrard's Al Ettifaq 2-0 in the Saudi Pro League yesterday to restore their 7-point lead above Al Nassr at the top of the league. It was also the club's 14 consecutive victories in the league, ending Al Nassr's previous record of winning 13 matches from November 2013 until February 2014. The visitors took the lead in the 39th minute when Serbian midfielder Sergej Milinkovic-Savic headed home from a Ruben Neves corner to score his 10th goal of the season across all competitions. Saudi winger Salem Al-Dawsari then gave Al Hilal a 2-goal cushion in first half injury time with his 13th of the season. Jorge Jesus' side are unbeaten this season and sit 7 points ahead of Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr at the top of the table with 19 wins and 2 draws. Al Ettifaq, meanwhile, remain in 8th on 28 points. Now, meanwhile, a late brace from Moroccan striker Abdulrazak Hamdallah gave Al Ittihad all 3 points at home to Al Wehda. Now, the win sees Marcelo Gallardo's side move up the 37 points, one behind Al Taoun in 4th, while Al Wehda sit 9th on 26. Karim Benzema, the Jeddah club star, thought he put the hosts 1-0 up on the half-hour mark before his goal, with chalked off following a VAR review which showed former Liverpool midfielder Fabinho infringing Al Wahida's Walid Bakshin in the build-up. Al Wahida's Aussie winger Craig Goodwin then set up a Nigerian striker and former Manchester United Leone Idion Igalo for a tap-in to put the visitors ahead 5 minutes later. A first half injury time, Benzema would miss an opportunity for Al Ittihad to go into the break level pegging when his penalty was saved by Al Wahida's Munir Mohammedi. Hamdallah stepped up in Benzema's place when Al Ittihad were awarded the second penalty with 7 minutes left in regulation, beating Munir with a cool Penaka finish. Al Ittihad then went down to 10 men when Saad Mohammad Misfara Al Mosa was shown a straight red for a last man challenge on Al Wahida's Wahya Mahdi Naji in the 90th minute. Benzema, however, would redeem his earlier miss when he beat a defender and picked out his strike partner, Hamdallah, for an easy first touch finish to seal all 3 points for the home side. In tennis, Andy Murray fought back from a set down to overcome Canada's Denis Shapovalov 4-6, 7-6, 6-3 in the first round of the Dubai Open. Now Murray clinched his 500th win on hard court, joining Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, Andre Agassi and Rafael Nadal in reaching the milestone.
Andy Murray is a former Dubai champion.
Murray struggled to contain a powerful first-set display from former top 10 player Shapovalov, who is searching for his best form after missing the end of the last season through injury. But the three-time Grand Slam champion edged a second-set tiebreak before easing through a decider with a double break. Murray will face either fellow veteran Gael Monfils or French fifth seed Hugo Hubat in the last 16. The Briton has not reached the quarter-finals at the ATP event since his final loss by Daniil Medvedev in Qatar over a year ago. Murray dropped 17 points in the ATP rankings earlier on Monday, falling to 67th place. Speaking after the match, Murray suggested he may only have a few months left of his tennis career. Three-time Grand Slam champion Murray's potential retirement has been a topic of discussion for several years after the Scot underwent hip replacement surgery in 2019.
People read a lot into what I say on the court sometimes, and it's not always rational. Yeah, but everyone asks me about it all the time anyway. So yeah, I obviously still love competing. I still love the game. But yeah, it gets obviously harder and harder the older you get to compete with the young guys and keep your body fit and fresh. So yeah, not easy. I probably don't have too long left, but I'll do as best as I can these last few months, yeah.
In second set.
Second seed Andrei Rublev, meanwhile, bounced back from a slow start to overcome China's Zhang Zhizhen 6-7, 6-2, 6-4 and advanced to the second round. The Russian world number 5 made it 5 consecutive first-round wins at the ATP 500 event, a tournament he won in 2022 before finishing runner-up last season to compatriot Daniil Medvedev. Awaiting Rublev in the second round will be either Italy's Lorenzo Musetti or French qualifier Arthur Kazaks. Robert Hukac survived a scare from German world number 25 Jean-Lennart Struff to eke out a 7-6, 6-7, 7-6 victory. Next up for the Pole, who currently sits at number 8 in the ATP rankings, will be German qualifier Maximilian Marterer or Australia's Christopher O'Connell, who also meet on Tuesday.
7-6, 6-7, 7-6.
Well, that concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, Sweden clears a final hurdle to join NATO as Hungary approves accession. Now, do join us again this evening on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM for more news. Till then, I'm Onto Othman. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching.